Let me ask you a question. Why is it that one simple text can make a man drop everything to chase you, while another text makes him pull away completely? It's not about looks. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about triggering his emotional brain in a way he can't ignore. In today's video, I'm going to share 5 specific words, yes, just 5, that when sent at the right moment, make a man feel an instant deep craving for you. And the best part, he'll have no idea why. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding male psychology and using it to your advantage. See, men are wired differently than women when it comes to attraction. While we respond to connection, they respond to curiosity and emotional triggers. And when you use these 5 words the way I'm about to teach you, his mind starts doing the chasing for you, even if he was distant before. So if you've ever felt ignored, ghosted, or left wondering where you stand, stay with me, because after today, you'll never have to chase a man again. Ready? Let's dive into the first secret word that flips the switch in his brain and makes him start working for your attention. Before I give you the first powerful word, you need to understand why these words actually work. Because if you don't get the psychology behind it, you might send the right words at the wrong time and completely lose their effect. Here's the truth. Most people don't realize men fall in love differently than women do. While women tend to connect emotionally first, men are wired to respond to emotional triggers, things that make them feel challenged, excited, and intrigued. When those triggers are activated, a man's brain releases dopamine, the same chemical linked to desire and obsession. When you send the right 5 words, you're not just sending a text, you're activating a psychological switch in his mind. Suddenly, you're no longer just another person he's texting. You become the puzzle he wants to solve, the challenge he wants to win, and the woman he needs to impress. This happens because of something called the reward anticipation loop. Men are naturally drawn to chase what feels slightly out of reach. If you hand everything to him too easily, his brain thinks there's no challenge here and his interest fades. But when you use these 5 words strategically, you spark uncertainty and curiosity, and his brain starts craving more interaction with you. Now here's the key. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about understanding how attraction is built at a subconscious level. The mistake most women make is over-explaining, over-investing early on, and that removes the mystery. When you send these 5 words, you're doing the exact opposite. You're giving him just enough emotional tension to make his mind race with questions like, what does she mean by that? Why did she say this now? Is she hinting at something deeper? And once his curiosity is hooked, he naturally starts chasing the answer, which means he starts chasing you. I've seen this work over and over again, no matter the situation. Whether it's a guy who's been pulling away, someone new you're texting, or even a boyfriend who's gotten comfortable. Once you understand this psychology, you'll be able to flip the dynamic without begging for attention. And now that you understand why this works, you're ready for the exciting part, because I'm about to reveal the very first word that instantly grabs his attention and makes him want more of you. Alright, here it is. The very first word that can completely change the way he responds to you. Imagine. Now I know what you're thinking. How can one simple word be so powerful? But here's the secret. The word imagine instantly pulls him into a mental picture where he becomes emotionally involved without even realizing it. See, when you tell someone to imagine, you bypass logic and directly engage the emotional center of the brain. And that's where attraction is created. For example, if you send a text like imagine us watching the sunset together right now, or imagine if you were here with me, it would be trouble. The moment he reads that, his mind automatically begins visualizing the scenario. He's not just reading your words anymore, he's experiencing them. And here's the key. When he creates that picture in his head, his brain releases dopamine, which makes him associate that good feeling with you. But timing is everything. You don't want to throw this out randomly. The first word works best when there's already a bit of rapport built. Maybe you've had a few playful conversations. Maybe he's shown some interest, but things feel a little flat or distant. Dropping a simple curiosity-driven imagine text reignites his attention instantly. Here's why it works better than just being direct. Men crave mystery and stimulation. If you text I miss you, it's sweet, but predictable. But if you text, imagine what would happen if we spent tonight together. Now his brain lights up. his curiosity peaks, and he starts leaning in emotionally. You're not forcing him to chase. You're inviting him to step into the fantasy. And once he's there, he naturally wants more interaction, more connection, and more of you. But here's the thing. Imagine is just the beginning. It's the spark that starts the fire. The next few words I'm about to reveal don't just make him think about you. They make him feel drawn to you in a way that's almost impossible for him to resist. Because if imagine gets his attention, the second and third words are what anchor his emotions and make him want to keep coming back for more. And trust me, once you learn how to use those, the chase will never be the same again. Now that you've got his attention with the first word, it's time to turn up the emotional intensity. The second and third words are, what if? Sounds simple, right? But these two little words have the power to unlock his imagination, trigger his curiosity, and create an emotional pull he can't resist. Here's why when you say what if, you plant a tiny seed of possibility in his mind. It invites him to picture a future moment, something that hasn't happened yet, and the mystery of what could be drives him to lean closer to you. His brain begins filling in the blanks, and because he's imagining the outcome, he naturally becomes more invested. For example, you might send a text like, what if tonight was different? Or what if we just disappeared for the weekend? Do you feel the difference? You're not directly saying what you want. You're hinting, you're suggesting, you're leaving space for his mind to wander, and that's where desire is born. Men are naturally wired to chase the unknown. The more you leave to the imagination, the more he craves clarity, and in seeking that clarity, he seeks you. That's the magic of these two words. They open the door just enough for him to step through emotionally, but not wide enough to give him everything. Here's the important part. Don't overuse this. If you say what if all the time, it loses its power. The trick is timing and contrast. Drop it into moments where there's a little playfulness, tension, or even silence between you. This makes your message stand out and hits his brain like a spark. And when you combine the first word imagine with what if at the right moment, the effect is irresistible. He starts envisioning experiences with you. His dopamine spikes, and before he even realizes it, he's craving your attention more than ever. But here's where it gets even better. The fourth word is what completely locks in his desire. It goes beyond curiosity and moves him into emotional commitment. Once you know how to use it, he won't just think about you. He'll start planning ways to win you over. To really understand why these 5 words work so powerfully, you need to know how a man's mind processes text differently than yours. Men and women communicate for different reasons. For most women, texting is about connection. It's about sharing feelings, checking in, and building emotional closeness. But for most men, texting is about stimulation and reward. Here's what I mean. When a man gets your text, his brain instantly evaluates it without him even realizing it. On a subconscious level, he's asking, does this make me curious? Does this excite me? Does this make me feel desired? Or does it make me feel trapped? If your message triggers curiosity, you get an instant dopamine spike in his brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for desire and motivation. And when a man feels that rush, he naturally wants more. That's why the right 5 words work like magic. They stimulate his emotional brain, not just his logical one. But here's the catch. When you text him things that are overly predictable, overly available, or overly explanatory, there's no dopamine rush. His brain processes it as ordinary, and his attention starts to drift. That's why sending paragraphs, explaining how you feel, or repeatedly checking in with, hey, what's up, rarely works. It doesn't activate his reward system. Instead, men are wired to seek out mystery and challenge. When you give him just enough information to spark his imagination, his mind does the rest of the work for you. He begins filling in the blanks, building scenarios, and getting emotionally invested in the story you've planted in his head. Think about it like this. A man's attraction is often triggered when he feels something unexpected. That could be curiosity, excitement, tension, or even playful frustration. When your text can create those feelings, he associates those emotions with you, and that's what keeps him coming back for more. This is why the words I'm sharing with you are so powerful. They're designed to hack into his natural reward loop, the same system that makes him chase after success, adventure, and yes, romance. Once you understand how his mind reacts, you'll realize it's not about texting constantly or overthinking your words. It's about sending the right triggers at the right moments. And now that you know how his brain processes desire, we're ready for the fourth magic word, the one that takes him from feeling curious to feeling deeply hooked. This is where his emotional investment starts to skyrocket. All right, we've reached the part you've been waiting for. The fourth and fifth words. These are the words that take everything we've built so far and lock in his desire. Ready? The words are, you won't. Now I know that sounds simple, but here's the secret. These two words challenge him. And when you challenge a man, his natural instinct to pursue, prove, and win kicks in. It taps into a deep psychological trigger called reactance. The idea that when someone feels their freedom or capability is being tested, they feel compelled to prove themselves. For example, you might text, "You won't believe what I just found out," or "You won't survive a night out with me." Do you see what's happening here? By using "you won't," you're inviting him into a playful challenge. His brain immediately reacts with, "Oh, really? Watch me." And just like that, you've shifted the dynamic. Now he's chasing you. But here's where it gets even better. When you combine these final two words with the first three we've already covered, the effect multiplies. Imagine a text like this. Imagine what would happen if you won't back out, or what if I told you there's a secret spot, only I know, you won't guess where. This blend hits every attraction trigger in his mind at once. Curiosity, mystery, anticipation, and challenge. It makes his brain crave resolution. And the only way to get it is by engaging more deeply with you. The key is subtlety. You're not forcing him. You're guiding his emotions, letting his own mind create the desire. That's what makes this so powerful. He doesn't feel manipulated. He feels compelled. And when he starts chasing, something incredible happens. He invests more energy, more thought, and more emotion into you. And the more he invests, the more attached he becomes. This isn't about games. It's about creating a natural pull that feels effortless but irresistible. Now that you have all 5 words, you hold the key to triggering his deepest attraction mechanisms without begging, over-explaining, or overthinking. But knowing the words isn't enough. It's all about how and when to use them. And in the next part, I'm going to show you the biggest texting mistakes women make that instantly kill attraction, and how to avoid them, so you can make these 5 words work like pure magic. Now, before you start using these 5 powerful words, I need to warn you, even the right words won't work if you're making certain texting mistakes. These are the mistakes that silently destroy attraction, push him away, and make it almost impossible for him to chase you, no matter how much potential there was in the beginning. The first big mistake is over-texting. If you're constantly double texting, sending back-to-back messages, or always initiating the conversation, you're unintentionally removing the sense of mystery. Remember, men are wired to pursue, and when you're always available, there's nothing left for him to work for. You don't need to play hard to get, but you do need to leave space for him to miss you. The second mistake is oversharing your emotions too quickly. If you send long paragraphs about how you feel, what you want, or why you're upset, his brain doesn't process it the way yours does. For many men, too much emotional intensity too soon can feel overwhelming. Instead, give him small emotional breadcrumbs, short, intriguing messages that make him curious to know more. The third mistake is predictable, low-energy texting. Things like, "Hey, what's up?" or "How's your day?" don't activate any emotional response. He's likely getting these same messages from multiple people. So if you want to stand out, your texts need to create feeling, curiosity, and excitement. Another big one. Chasing him when he pulls away. It's natural to panic when he goes quiet, but sending "Why aren't you replying?" or "Did I do something wrong?" only pushes him further. Instead, give him space. Use one of the 5 words at the right moment to draw him back in, rather than forcing a reaction. And finally, using these 5 words too often is a mistake in itself. Their power comes from scarcity. If you drop them in every single conversation, they lose their magic. The secret is to sprinkle them strategically when you want to spark his curiosity or reignite his desire. Avoiding these mistakes will completely change how men respond to you. When you combine restraint, mystery, and emotional triggers, you create an energy that makes him want to invest more and chase harder. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly how to keep him emotionally hooked long term, so he doesn't just chase you in the beginning, he stays obsessed with you. Now you know the 5 powerful words that make him chase you. But here's the thing. Most people overlook. Getting his attention is only the beginning. If you want him to keep chasing you, to keep showing up, and to keep putting in the effort, you have to understand how to keep him emotionally hooked. Attraction isn't just about one magical text. It's about creating an ongoing emotional experience that keeps his mind engaged and his heart invested. Men don't stay hooked because of what you look like, or even what you say. They stay hooked because of how you make them feel. The secret is emotional variety. If every conversation feels the same, he'll start to check out, not because he doesn't like you, but because his brain stops getting excited. Think of attraction like a fire. If you keep adding the same piece of wood over and over, the flame eventually dies out. You need to switch it up to keep the spark alive. Sometimes you should be playful and teasing. Other times you should be sweet and affectionate. And once in a while, you should pull back slightly and let him wonder what you're thinking. That unpredictability is what keeps his brain stimulated and craving more interaction with you. Another key factor is rewarding his investment. When he makes an effort, whether it's texting first, planning something fun, or expressing his feelings, respond in a way that shows you appreciate it. A simple "that made me smile" can go a long way. This positive reinforcement triggers his brain's reward system, making him associate making you happy with his own happiness. But here's where many women unintentionally lose him. They make everything too easy. If he knows you'll always respond instantly, always be available, and never challenge him emotionally, his brain starts to think there's nothing left to earn. And when there's nothing left to earn, the chase ends. That's why you have to maintain a little mystery. Not games, but space. Moments where he wonders what you're doing, who you're with, and what's on your mind. That curiosity is one of the strongest attraction drivers you can create. Finally, keep building shared experiences, even over text. Use your 5 magic words to create little emotional movies in his head. Send playful challenges. Spark curiosity. Drop hints about fun things you'd love to do together. When you're the person who constantly makes him feel something, you become impossible to replace. The bottom line is this: attraction doesn't last because of grand gestures. It lasts because of consistency, emotional triggers, and balance. Be playful, be unpredictable, give him space to chase, and then reward him when he does. That cycle creates a loop in his brain that keeps him excited, invested, and obsessed. Not just today, but for as long as you want him to be. And coming up next, I'm going to give you a complete recap of the 5 magic words and the exact formula for using them at the right time, so you'll never second guess your texts again. So let's bring everything together. You now have the 5 powerful words that can completely shift the dynamic between you and any man you're texting. You've learned how they trigger curiosity, spark desire, and make him chase you without even realizing why. The first word, imagine, pulls him into your world, painting a vivid picture in his mind and making him emotionally experience the scenario you've created. The second and third words, what if, open the door to endless possibilities, planting seeds of curiosity and leaving him craving more. And finally, the fourth and fifth words, you won't, challenge him in a playful, irresistible way that activates his natural instinct to pursue and prove himself. When you use these 5 words strategically, you're not just sending texts. You're activating emotional triggers that make him want to engage, invest, and chase. But remember, it's not just about what you say. It's also about when you say it. Timing and context are everything. Dropping these words casually won't create the same impact. Instead, use them in moments where you want to spark curiosity, reignite attraction, or deepen the connection. Here's the real takeaway. You're not tricking him, manipulating him, or playing games. You're communicating in a way his brain naturally responds to. Men are wired to pursue, and when you understand how to create that emotional pull, the dynamic shifts naturally, without pressure, without forcing, and without losing your self-worth. Now, here's what I want you to do. Pick just one of these 5 words and try it out today. Test it in a playful, low-pressure way and watch how his energy toward you changes. Then come back here and let me know in the comments what happened. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you found this video valuable, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next video where we'll dive even deeper into the psychology of attraction and give you more secrets to make him crave you non-stop. Remember this, when you know how to create curiosity, mystery, and emotional connection, you'll never have to chase love again, because he'll be the one chasing you.